Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. So I just finished the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Really long title. But it was a really good book. I really liked it. Definitely an interesting kind of spin on a couple different things. So the story is about a young girl named Cecilia who is motherless, of course. She watched her mother be killed by her father, and her father has been trying to come after her for like a decade. And she's been raised by a woman who she believes is her aunt. And in the raising, she's been taught how to be a pirate so that she can join the Wisteria Society. And so the Wisteria Society is like this group of sophisticated women who are pirates. They pillage and plunder and do all the things. But instead of being sea pirates, like what we know of, they are land pirates, and they fly houses using spells and witchcraft and everything. So the whole story is her trying to, save her aunt who gets kidnapped by her father, and she meets this young gentleman who is, for all intents and purposes, a rogue, a rake, and that's kind of how everybody discusses him. But she winds up falling in love with him and he with her. So, yeah. Really interesting kind of take on a couple different things. The story, Cecilia is a bookworm. She loves books. She loves reading. And so, like, the whole story, she's also, like, talking about, like, oh, I just want to go to the library. And every time she tries to go to the library, something crazy happens. And so I really like that the author kind of alluded to a lot of Gothic stories, specifically the Brontes. Cecilia's father, Morbath, he believes that he is the illegitimate son of a Bronte brother, and by the end of the story, we're not really sure who his dad is. So there's like a lot of like, he finds out his dad might be Charles Darwin. He also finds out it might be just some random pig farmer. And so there's, some humor with that as well. I really like the writing style of the author. There's a lot of extended response kind of thoughts of a lot of characters. The character will be like thinking something and then kind of have this like trail off section where they're kind of like just talking to themselves, and it's just very funny. I really like that style. Also, very short book, very easy to read, very, very quick. I give it a 4 out of 5, and the reason I don't give it anything higher is because like, I felt like there were some things that just weren't explained. So this is the first book in, it is technically a series, I believe. And I haven't quite figured it out. I haven't figured out if, like, we'll see these characters again, because the next book in the series has a different set of characters, at least from reading the jacket. And, like, so that kind of confuses me. However, it's not really explained, like, how they got their like ability to fly houses. So like they just like like I said, instead of boats they fly houses, and they speak these spells and their house just kind of lifts up and flies around all over the place. And that's just kind of confusing. Like I really kind of wanted a little bit more explanation, and it's mentioned that it might have been started by some pirate like 400 years prior to when the story takes place, but it just wasn't clear. And then like the other thing is that the story focuses on kind of this juxtaposition. So it takes place in roughly 1897, whenever Queen Victoria had her Diamond Jubilee ball, and and there's no date actually mentioned in the story, but based on Queen Victoria being old enough to have the Diamond Jubilee, that would put it roughly about 1897. And so that's an interesting kind of spin, because a lot of times when we think of pirates, we think of 18th century and not 19th century. So there's that side of it, but it just kind of left a lot of explanation that I just really wanted. Like, how did they get to piracy, and why did they decide to do houses? But also this kind of juxtaposition of like women are in charge of the society, and that the men kind of do more of the work, at least within this pirate community. Like, the men are doing more of the at-home work, and part of the antagonist character of Morvath is that he's like, I don't want women to have this say, so I don't want them to be able to tell me what to do as a man. And they're kind of like, well, yeah, but that's what you guys were doing before all of this. So that's an interesting kind of juxtaposition, but especially within like the period of time where there is that change. You know, a lot more women were out in the workforce at this time than had been, you know, in years prior. And then also just like the reference back to specific novels where like women are being beaten. Like it mentions Wuthering Heights. It mentions Jane Eyre, which there's no like real women beating, but just like that, like education for submissiveness and not education because women deserve to have an education. So that was kind of interesting, but it just wasn't really clear. I felt like the author was trying to throw some like spin on women's suffrage. Like, it's mentioned a couple times, women's suffrage, but like nothing about women's suffrage in terms of like actions that were happening. But like really hitting the education piece, and then like also being like, yeah, but they're pirates and they don't want to, you know, do anything other than, you know, steal some jewels, steal from a bank, but also be married and have kids. And so like I got what the author was trying to say. I just didn't feel like it was well executed in a couple spots. I also there were a lot of characters that were named that seemed to want to have a bigger role within the story, but might not. And so, like, I'm hoping that in potentially reading more into the series, that some of those characters will either come back or pop up again. But I'm also just, like, I don't know. It just left a lot of, like, loose ends that I really wanted kind of wrapped up. So, because of that, 4 out of 5. But outside of that, really liked it. It is not like full smut, but definitely a little bit schmutty, especially towards the end. But what I liked about it is that it like waited till the end or closer to the end of the story to really kind of go in that direction. So you got like actual storyline before all of that, which was nice. But that said, I like truthfully would not mind if this was a TV show or something. There's a couple things that are fairly violent, but in a very comedic way. The way it's written is just pure comedy. And so I think that would make a very interesting TV show. Definitely not a movie. I feel like I say that a lot. Like, there are some books that just should not be movies. They should be TV shows. And that this is definitely one that would do better as a TV show because there's just so much happening. Like, you can't condense it into a movie. But really interesting story. Really like the twist on witchcraft and piracy and all that. And of course history, because it is a little historic fantasy as well. So all of that to say, the Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels, or of Lady Scoundrels, by India Holton. Really good book. So definitely recommend that for you all out there. I don't even remember how this one wound up on my list. like it just wound up on the list at some point. I don't think anybody recommended it. I think I might have seen like it pop up on something because, you know, everything is connected on social media, and so anytime you think about something, there's going to be an ad for it. And so I think that's probably where it popped up, or it might have popped up on one of my friends who posts, you know, frequently about books that they've read. So there you have it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you so choose. I think that's about it. I'm really looking forward to finding more of the books. Books in this series. I went to like a bigger, more direct bookstore today to get this book so that I could finish it. And literally got the last copy in the store, and they didn't have anything else in the series. They had other stuff by the author, but not in this series. So I'm gonna go digging to get some more of that. But like I said, like, comment any other thoughts you guys have about the book, or anything, or any other books that you think should be added to the list. I think that's it. I will see you guys in the next book review. Bye!